Enti enano your friend wa in relation to a post you made about an hour ago, say I have long dismissed the Ghana Bar Association as an NPP grouping. If it were not so, the intolerable abuse of this judge by the minority leader would have elicited an immediate, uncompromising response. They have been known to respond quickly to far less offensive commentary by non-NPP members. Alas, one of their own, an NPP lawyer, has abused a judge, so they have been loudly silent. What insufferable duplicity. Honorable Nawe, enye muamu NPP and this politics now will transfer the Ako GBA for us.
Oh, yes.
Now,
we know, we say, somebody a can, no more kind this NPP woman. That's a more about to Obien to me can NPP in this woman in Niji. Because, and you can go back. Say, ye can't amanukua. I suffer historical judicial hostility at NDC. Let me about 30 different examples of things. Now, we name and yes, I've been a better here. There's no political party that has benefited from judicial bias as in MPP. At least since the year 2000 and now 2001, when they have done everything to skew judicial pronouncements in their favor. Yeah, and this before we've endured it all this while. Almost here, Bremun and Sayano, has to be a few more tends to create the impression that suddenly the entire judicial system and that assembly comma or more, it simply means they say particular judges are politicians in Tinomoyaka. I thought to me, I am on record. Some particular case involving Abronye. I'm on record to have publicly disagreed with the judge. Abronye judge ruling say, and there was a portion of the judge ruling, or can say, Abronye is not equal to others, and after a person say, some people are more equal than others. I publicly said that was a very bizarre pronouncement. Any stage now, it's a very own Abronye. In fact, because an Abronye probably did in Matem, but I still insisted that the judge had not treated Abronye fairly, despite all the political disagreements. I have also said, me, as far as I'm concerned, that Obin Kasemwa, a day we never bread judge be, and I said, a bed certain judge life, and now a day basabasa yet. Now, after two, Yasno Re Asia, Nipano, and if you had could not quote, and I said, that is my belief. I'm very liberal on that principle. And I won't support anybody being sent to jail for merely criticizing a system, either judicial, executive, or legislative. But there's a difference between disagreeing with a judge, pointing out aspects of law, which is a judge, when this so, and I say, judge, what from, and I am rare, and then one fine year, and I say, where you attention. And directly abusing a judge in a manner that Honorable Afenyo did. And indeed, Honorable Afenyo and I've told him that he went way too far in some work, because apart from having the freedom to criticize the judge, there's a recourse. You can go to a superior court to set aside judge ruling, and I will be just a lawyer.
That's true.
And it has been done many, many times in Ghana. But to set a judge aside, single him out, and say you disrespect him, you disrespect, that is way too much. That is frontal abuse of a particular judge. Now, the Emma say, Ghana Bar Association. You see, for many years, position I'm there together. I've held it many times. And the first time, and I'll continue to say it. Okay? This is an association in 2008.
Asempa FM.
I'm president. And if you knew Samuels, if you could not, because he criticized the judge who jailed Chachikata. For criticizing the judge for jailing Chachikata, almost two president at DSO. President Mama, there were many instances in the opposition. They criticized the judicial. They were quick to come out to denounce him. In fact, in one instance there, almost on a platform, Emma both Attorney General Gofedami, any President Akufo-Addo, Emma attacking President Mama for expressing disquiet about judicial outcomes. Yet, as someone Afenyo Kwakye totally abusing the judge. No more. They remain silent, deathly silent. As someone says, oh yes, Anna, you are abusing public confidence in the association because for many years, the posture they've adopted, they say, first of all, they defend the judiciary, and I feel so matters relating to human rights violations that they are so almost.
Yes.
In fact, about 30 years ago, Greater Accra Regional Branch of Ghana Bar Association, lawyers at Greater Accra, they withdrew their services because the Supreme Court held one of their members in contempt for attacking the judiciary. They've done all of this in the past. Yet, NPP for also be a normal common to see no evil, hear no evil, say no evil. If I think what they have done is unprincipled, and that they need to be called out. See a man, no clear that one. They did two the way the Ghana Bar Association operates is not fair, it's not balanced. If they are a partisan association, so then there's no public expectation of them to perform any function beyond supporting the NPP. But then to make a basse, a footfall, I can't send the and Tampana no be a thing. I can say to any panel, I condemn. But when it involves the NPP, no more to show they drag their feet. Okay, Obi, I told me as I know. Time narrative and answer NPP before they back and trying to create the impression. Suddenly there's some abuse of freedoms and that the judiciary suddenly is in bed with the NDC. No, I didn't want to go back to recall these instances. But NPP, Afenyo Martin, no more thing in our common. What did they not do to people who express themselves under NPP? Meno Kaseson said, Bobi Ansa used to host program now, who hosted this year.
Yes.
In 2021 or 2022, Bobi Ansa Koka said, a year, then First Lady, Mrs. Rebecca Kufado, and Vice President at the time, Stamia Baumia, Omakwaje Asasibu or Cantonment Sahano Moody Sidan. Because of that, Bobi Ansa was picked up and taken to court. Make us say the matter is still in court. The matter is still in court. Say. Tell me bongo ideas.
Minimum.
Abronye bi or what Twitter.
Sure.
Okay, can cancel. Okoka assembly for Mrs. Rebecca Kufado. They didn't take him to court. They kidnapped him for days. State security, they kidnapped him for days for saying something about the First Lady at the time. Mensa Thompson. Okoka say Omampedima at the presidential jet a 2 coin. I don't know man Oman ko so ne mutwetwe ankwasha abankukum. And I could go on and on and on and on for the things that they did to people who express views in this country. How is it that suddenly almost abemu na say the same emrana omodewi amount for no ye did you ma then suddenly they are insulting and attacking judges. Okay, Muntie 3. Obi. Muntie 3. Were they not sentenced to 4 months imprisonment for abusing judges?
Yes.
For abusing judges. The owner of Radio Good at the time, Mr. Atuahwe, and now on the bed, he didn't even know who was appearing on his program that day. You buy one for a fine 30,000 cities because of some of the radio stations. And yet, before no more say, Oklahoma say, Adia, court near at the papa. Did the MPP not jubilate over it? Oman condemned those of us who insisted, say, the sentence was a bit excessive. Oman condemned. If no cranning and you can learn people complain. Tell the question and the pa. Me, I've told you, say, I don't believe to be some effort that necessarily should lead to prosecution and after imprisonment, unless it breaches the peace and after it threatens the life of the individual concerned. But can the people say same? What is their position? Last week, that was about my issue statement. Claiming, say, free speech is being criminalized. And I know Abra Nigeria, Obika Nigeria, once a more. Yachi Nipano, make us say, assembly work court, will be answered. What was Dr. Bamia's position? Sabi Oka, so, in all fairness and honesty, can you say, said the end before, can a genuine? So, we need to be fair. But now, more journalists, say, asem ba ya na NDC masa enye NDC MPP asem ke Afenyo Martin sir all complaining ended. Did he not file a case and within 2 hours the full panel of the Supreme Court was assembled? Can't mediate in Ghana. Are there no cases Aqua Quarter? We in the NDC have expressed reservations about them. And for instance still say it was right. So for as long as courts rule, there will be disagreements. But nobody can frontally disrespect a judge in the manner that Afenyo Martin did. Ghana Bar Association, that can not too. Because there are people in society they have less responsibility. Who have been punished. Or he never ban or represent our SYZ TV. Or what can I say? Nana Akufo-Addo appointed Supreme Court to the NPP for. Gofredame cited him for contempt at the High Court. I mean, it need to refuse 14 days, 2 weeks. Obi, I can't make a boy.
Yeah, but honorable, I mean, all the instances now, one manner. There were instances at the NDC that in opposition complained about, based on which the NDC promised to reset this country. Resetting, in my understanding, means you do something materially different from what you complained about. If you do the same things under a reset, now or justification is MPP for also that is some way. And
Obi, Attorney General Gofred Domitayini, Obi Kujina Court, a prosecuting. President Gofred for saying anything against the judiciary. Says about power.
No, sir, Attorney General delegated power, so the Biama police and the police are prosecuting people.
Question. But you see,
yes,
a judge, the assembly, not the judge rules. President of the country, Attorney General, cannot say my judge and enforce it. William said in Abronye case, no, the prosecution actually opposed one of the denials of bail, and yet the judge went ahead to remand Abronye. So you must stick to that. So that it doesn't create the impression, say, the MPP for no. There are instances also where members of the public have complained about what some have said about them. There's an instance of a journalist, of a BB, a former NCA board chairman, former NCA board chairman, only a member of this government went to complain, and then the police took the person to court. But it will be announced, and I said it will be broadcast to say the police are taking somebody to court. It was not at the instance of government. So we must also limit anytime you do a court on anything they say, I take the trouble to find out what has happened. And almost 90% of the time, it has nothing to do with government. But as I don't believe that anybody should be taken to court for anything they say. But we must look into the matter separately and not be quick to lump parties together to make excuses for misconduct.
Yeah, but the challenge is from the instances you refer to under the NPP, most of those instances, the police that made arrests, the police prepared charge sheet and for echo court. They could also have argued, say it had nothing to do with government, because police for charge sheet, Omunina referred to Section 208 of Act 29, Omu referred to the section in the Electronic Communications Act, which some have even argued, say, under a reset, we should be even talking about how do we get those things out of our statute books. That conversation is not even being had.
That is fine. We can have that conversation.
Yes.
But when the first lady, second lady, the case is pending now. Can the vice president, whose wife was the beneficiary of that action, come and condemn the same judiciary for holding somebody for saying something? No. So, and one thing I make actually said, the question is just political posturing. And yes, MP before Mujidi candidate. But I know that the material issue of the minority that may reason, who can tell me, say, what I have said is not fair? Based on what the GBA has done in this country, Obi, there's even an association of judges and magistrates.
Yeah, there is.
Meaning, what I said, there was a time, Dr. Kwabene of Blessed Memory, no, NDC chairman. Nkomodia bi by no can say, oh, there are several ways to kill a cat.
To kill a cat, yes.
Way a idiomatic expression, can be everyday expression. For saying that both the GBA and the Association of Judges and Magistrates publicly condemned him. So, if the GBA is criticized for keeping quiet about this instant case, is it a fair criticism or not?
No, it is. It is fair, except to say, sir, the same GBA. Okay, you are calling on the GBA to criticize him because Afenyo Markin is a member of the GBA, right?
It is not just that. There are people among young members of the GBA. GBA has condemned them for saying things about the judiciary. Afenyo, apart from the fact, so yeah, GBA members, as a minority leader, a very prominent person in Ghanaian society, into the level of responsibility expected of him is much higher than some of the journalists, others about judiciary, who have actually been punished by the same judiciary. So it is not just because of his membership, but the fact that this one is a clear affront to the judiciary. But someone can say,
yeah, but would that not be you inviting pressure onto the GBA when you know very well, sir? Even at time amumu opposition, no, enye insema amusumo kafa judge for who na GBA eba be condemn here. This thing about unanimous 11 or say unanimous 7 Obi a women's organizer Osno Mame, it came from leading members of your party. The GBA did not condemn.
Obi, with leading members. You see, local social media now. There are so many things that NPP followers are saying. You cannot hold the NPP for it. However, if Dr. Bamiaka, minority leader, and office holders of the NPP can, it becomes a position of the party that you can hold on to. So, Obi Cultural Unanimous FCR, the GDA cannot go about speaking to everything written everywhere. But it depends on who has said it. In this instance, we are talking a minority leader. No small, minority leader.
Okay.
A leader of parliament. I was also a prominent member of the GBA or an officer of the court. And a workers assembly. And yet, up to now, wouldn't. So there must be consistency. So I knew who said, I dare That's all I'm calling for.
Very well, very well. Felix,
but as for the fact that people should be able to express themselves freely, me, I endorse it fully, but kind of publicly. In fact, if you mean go back, what can I say, John? I think 2012 or so, after elections, no?
Yeah.
He was heard before the Supreme Court. And so, Assembly, I cannot repeat it here. After that, I think his sentence was commuted, and I said he was pardoned, if I'm not mistaken, even though he was convicted.
Yes, he was. He was pardoned.
Yes. I publicly said so. I didn't think that it was necessary for us to go that left. I said so. Position in terms of free speech.
No. To be fair to you, yes, you've been consistent in that position.
Yes,
but
so
I think
I'm calling for consistency on the part of those who expressed disquiet in the past.
But I think one thing you also can do now that you are in a position of power is to probably initiate conversations around what do we do with Section 208, which is still in our statute books. Because at the end of the day, as long as it is there, the police is empowered to enforce same.
Obi, even the entire constitution of Ghana is undergoing amendments. In fact, last week, I announced that Cabinet was considering the position paper, draft position paper.
Committee in the Okay.
In fact, many can say we've done the first part, but the doors will be to that's also in the weeks coming. So, as for amendments of laws, if it ever becomes an issue, then repeal these two sections, me personally, I will not be opposed to it.
Very well.
It doesn't mean there will not be safeguards to ensure, for instance, we are Crimea, Faba, not a cool Crimea, I don't know you can't tolerate it.
And they were across the line, yes.
Yes. So maybe it is in those instances that we take action. But anything below that will express an opinion, whether harshly or mildly, about the working of an arm of government and our public official there, I think it should pass. That is my personal view. And I've said it publicly. I've also said it privately for those who know me.
Very well.